She asked, "Do I look good in this dress?" I said, "I can't look away." CEO ex-employee love story, part 1. When she asked the question, it wasn't flirtatious. That's what surprised him the most. "Do I look good in this dress?" Her voice was quiet, almost uncertain. Ethan Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Technologies, youngest executive ever to make the Fortune 500, froze mid-step outside his office. The glass walls reflected the city skyline behind him, sharp and confident. Nothing about his world allowed hesitation. Except her. Lena Morales stood near the conference table, smoothing the fabric at her waist like she wanted to disappear into it. The navy dress was simple, professional, too modest for the way it fit her, too honest for how she looked at him. She wasn't trying to impress him. She was nervous. Ethan swallowed. He'd trained himself for years not to look. Not at employees, not at temptation, not at anything that could cost him control. But the way the afternoon light caught her hair, the way she waited for his answer like it mattered. "I can't look away," he said before he could stop himself. The room went silent. Lena's breath caught. Her eyes lifted, wide, startled, searching his face to see if he was joking. He wasn't. For a split second, neither of them moved. Then reality slammed back in, titles, rules, consequences. She laughed nervously. Okay. Thank you. I just needed to know if it was appropriate for the client dinner." Client dinner. Of course. Ethan turned away too fast, pretending to check his phone. "It's appropriate," he said, voice lower than he meant. "Very." She nodded, cheeks flushed, and gathered her notebook. "I'll get back to work." When the door closed behind her, Ethan exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. Lena Morales had been his executive assistant for 8 months. 8 months of competence so sharp it scared senior managers. 8 months of quiet intelligence, late nights, and coffee orders she remembered without writing down. 8 months of telling himself this was nothing. But tonight wasn't nothing. The client dinner was at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, glass lights, low music, expensive everything. Ethan arrived composed, tailored suit perfect, expression unreadable. Then Lena walked in. The same dress. Different confidence. She smiled at him, professional, warm, careful. The kind of smile that didn't cross lines. That made it worse. Throughout the evening, she handled everything flawlessly, introductions, schedules, subtle reminders whispered just for him. She stood close enough that he could smell her perfume, something soft and understated. At one point, the client joked, "You're lucky to have her." Hard to find loyalty like that. Ethan looked at Lena. "She's irreplaceable," he said. The word landed heavier than he intended. Later, when the dinner wound down and the city lights blurred into gold below them, Lena stepped onto the terrace for air. Ethan followed, though he told himself he shouldn't. The night was quiet, honest. "I'm sorry if earlier was awkward," she said without turning around. "I shouldn't have asked you that." "You didn't do anything wrong," he replied. She finally looked at him. "Then why does it feel like I did?" Because the truth was standing between them. Because for the first time in his life, Ethan Blackwood wanted something he couldn't buy, control, or justify. "I've worked hard to keep boundaries," he said carefully. "For both our sakes. And now?" she asked. "And now I'm realizing boundaries don't stop feelings. They just hide them." Her breath trembled. Silence stretched, dangerous, electric. "I don't want to be a mistake," Lena whispered. "You wouldn't be," he said instantly. "But the world would call you one." She nodded, eyes shining. "That's what scares me." Ethan stepped back. It hurt more than any loss he'd ever known. "Then we do this the right way," he said. "Even if it means pretending tonight never happened." She searched his face, then gave a small, sad smile. "Okay." But as they walked back inside, their hands brushed. And neither of them pulled away fast enough. That night, Ethan lay awake in his penthouse, city glowing beneath him. For the first time, success felt empty. For the first time, control felt like cowardice. And somewhere across the city, Lena stared at her ceiling, replaying one sentence over and over. "I can't look away." Part 2. Some feelings refuse to stay quiet. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the office earlier than usual. Not because he needed to, his calendar was light, but because being alone in the building felt safer than facing the day pretending nothing had shifted. He stood by the window of his office, coffee untouched, watching the city wake up. He'd negotiated billion-dollar mergers without blinking. Fired executives without losing sleep. Yet one woman in a navy dress had unraveled him completely. At 8:07 a.m., his assistant's desk light turned on. Lena. He didn't look at her at first. He told himself that distance was discipline. That silence was maturity. Then she knocked. "Good morning," she said softly. Her voice was professional again. Controlled. The same voice she'd used before everything became complicated. "Good morning," he replied, equally composed. For the next 3 hours, they existed in a careful dance. Emails were exchanged. Meetings were scheduled. Their hands never touched. Their eyes barely met. But the air between them was loud. Every time she leaned over his desk to place a document, Ethan felt it. The pull, the ache, the memory of her standing on that terrace with the city behind her like a promise neither of them dared to accept. At 11:42 a.m., she hesitated by the door. "Mr. Blackwood," she said. "The board meeting tomorrow, it was moved up. They want a preliminary report today." "Thank you," he said, then paused. "Lena." She looked at him. "I appreciate your professionalism," he added. "Especially, today." Something unreadable passed across her face. "Of course," she said. "That's my job." She left before he could say anything else. That was the moment Ethan realized the danger wasn't crossing a line. It was pretending the line hadn't already been erased. That evening, the rain came hard and sudden, the kind that turned the city into reflections and regret. Ethan stayed late, working more out of avoidance than necessity. When he finally shut down his laptop, he noticed a light still on outside his office. Lena's desk. She sat there, jacket off, hair pulled back loosely, typing with the focus of someone trying not to feel anything at all. "You're still here," he said. She looked up, startled. "I could say the same. You should go home," he said gently. "So should you." A beat. "I didn't mean," she started. "I know," he said. "Neither did I." Silence stretched between them, heavier than before. "Can we talk?" she asked finally. Ethan's instinct screamed caution. CEO. Power imbalance. Consequences. But honesty was louder. Yes. They didn't go to his office. They went to the empty conference room down the hall. Neutral ground, glass walls, nowhere to hide. The rain streaked down the windows like the city itself was eavesdropping. Lena folded her arms. "I've been trying all day to act like last night didn't mean anything." "And?" he asked. "And I'm bad at lying to myself." Ethan nodded slowly. "So am I." She exhaled, shaky. "I don't want special treatment. I don't want rumors. I don't want to be that girl everyone whispers about." "You wouldn't be," he said firmly. "That's not your call alone." She replied. "People see what they want to see." He leaned against the table. "Then let them see the truth." Her eyes met his. "And what's the truth, Ethan?" He didn't dodge it this time. "The truth is that I respect you more than anyone I've worked with. The truth is that I think about you when I shouldn't. And the truth is, I don't want this to be a secret or a mistake." She swallowed. "Even if it costs you." His answer came without hesitation. "Especially if it costs me." That startled her more than any confession could have. "You built this company," she said. "Your reputation, your board, your investors. Irreplaceable," he interrupted softly. "You aren't." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she laughed, a quiet, disbelieving sound. "That's a dangerous thing to say to someone who's been invisible most of her life." "You were never invisible," he said. "I just didn't know how to look without wanting." They stood closer now, not touching, but close enough that restraint felt like a physical effort. "I need time," she said. "Time to think. Time to be sure this isn't just intensity or loneliness or power confusing things." "I'll give you all the time you need," he said. "And if you decide this can't happen, I'll respect that." She studied his face, searching for ego, for control. She found none. "Okay," she said. "Then let's do this the right way. Slowly. Honestly." Relief and fear hit him at the same time. "Agreed," he said. As they left the conference room, the rain had softened into a mist. At the elevator, she hesitated. "Ethan." "Yes. That night, when you said you couldn't look away." He waited. "Thank you for telling the truth," she said. "Even if it scared me." He smiled, small and real. "It scares me too." The elevator doors closed between them. But this time, the distance didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning that demanded courage. Over the following weeks, they learned each other in fragments. Shared lunches that were technically work-related. Conversations that lingered just a second too long. Texts sent late at night that stayed careful, thoughtful, restrained. The board noticed Ethan's distraction. Lena noticed his restraint. And the world remained blissfully unaware that something fragile and powerful was growing inside the glass walls of Blackwood Technologies. Until one morning, a board member pulled Ethan aside and said, "Be careful. People are starting to talk." That night, Ethan stood in his office again, city glowing below. This time, he wasn't alone. Lena stood beside him, fingers laced with his for the first time. No witnesses, no pretenses. "Whatever happens next," she said, "we face it together." He squeezed her hand. "For once," he replied, "I don't want to look away."